Okay, moving on to failure number 5, which is whatever the hell it is you're about to watch. So as we know, Justin Trudeau is a fountain of wisdom and, political fortitude. He is probably one of the greatest public speakers of all time. I mean, this guy's a substitute drama teacher. This is him stumbling around. This is just him being a stumbling idiot. So we're going to give our top 3. So here is the bronze medal of Justin Trudeau's infinite wisdom. And remember, he's being asked a question about Syria right now. So here we go, bronze medal.
Baghdad, to make sure that we're promoting stability and long-term institutional and people stability in Iraq.
Baghdad is part of Iraq. He was asked a question about Syria. Oh my God, this guy's the prime minister. All right, moving on to the silver medal of Justin Trudeau's wisdom. Let's learn about trade from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
We import more steel than the Americans import. We have a significant trade surplus. The Americans have a significant trade surplus with us on steel, which means we buy steel from them, they buy steel from us.
That man runs a country. My country, apparently. Oh, goody. But that pales in comparison to the gold medal of Justin Trudeau's brilliant wisdom. Gold medal, run the clock.
And what do you and your family do to cut back on plastics?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of when we have water bottles out of a plastic, away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles sort of things. There's a number of choices.
Just say, I drink tap water, you moron. Just say, we drink tap water. But guys, if you want, there will be uninterrupted themed paper drink box water bottle type sort of things coming in the near future. Stay tuned. Okay. He runs our country. He runs our country. Number 4. Our veterans who are just asking for more than we can give right now. Really? Really? I mean, one, he ran his 2015 campaign on paying for veteran stuff. So he ran on being pro-veteran and getting them services and not getting into legal fights with them. He ran on all of this, okay? But here he is at a town hall telling people and veterans that they're asking for more than they can give. So show that. Here he is. Veterans want more than I can give, right? We're strapped for cash. We are in debt. That would be a decent thing. That would be a decent thing to say. I could get it. Maybe veterans are asking for more than we can give right now. If this wasn't happening. So show this. Trudeau tweets away $50 million to impress a comedian. Right? Trevor Noah's like, oh, we need money. Just tweets away $50 million. Look at me, Trevor. Just trying to impress comedians. And we're going to go into all the stupid spending, all the foreign aid that shouldn't be going over, that should go to veterans. So no, I think we should prioritize the people. I'm a firm believer of veterans before terrorists. Again, people who fought for Canada are much better than people who fought against Canada. That is my policy as random talking head on the internet. Okay, number 3. It's the India trip. Oh, the India trip. Oh, so much. Whoa. This is really what exposed him as an abject fool on the world stage. Remember, Justin Trudeau got elected primarily because he was making us look better. Because, you know what, Stephen Harper was boring. You know, we want a young, sexy, progressive prime minister that the European liberals can go over and, oh, look how good. Danga, danga, danga. But then he went over to India and basically pranced around like an idiot. Right? See how everyone there is wearing suits except for Trudeau's detail? I mean, even the people in turbans are wearing suits. But he's just up there with the whole family, making prayer hands, going to Bollywood events, just acting like a general putz, dancing around like a fool. I mean, oh my God, look how cringeworthy is this. He just went to India for a taxpayer-funded vacation for his family. He was snubbed at the airport. Moody didn't even greet him at the airport because, again, he's a Khalistani supporter, so the Indians don't like us. Then he managed to make a fool. Like, no Indian dresses that. That's like a Halloween costume. It's like if Modi got off the plane in overalls, in a lumberjack uniform, carrying a pickaxe, in a jean jacket. Like, okay, buds, time to go lug some maple syrup. And we were like, what is the Prime Minister of India doing right now? That. Okay. But it is good that the India trip did expose him as the utter fraud he is, and did embarrass him. If there's anything that's going to cost him the election, that might be it. Because that ruined his global image to the left. Because the left used to be like, oh, you have Donald Trump, well, we have Justin Trudeau. Then everyone's like, yeah, maybe he's a bit of an idiot. Number 2 failure. Funding terrorism. Yes, as I said, there is nothing Justin Trudeau loves more than funding a little bit of the terrorism there. Now, it's one thing to support terrorists. It's one thing to award Omar Khadr $10.5 million. It's a whole other thing to send our tax dollars to terrorist organizations. The biggest one of these is Islamic Relief Canada. So show the picture, because Justin Trudeau, here he is. He has only done 2 promotional videos as a Prime Minister. One of them is for Islamic Relief Canada. We'll get into the other one later in the show. So Islamic Relief Canada is a front group for the Muslim Brotherhood, okay? In a Canadian Senate testimony hearing, an expert witness identified 4 groups. One, AIRFAN, which is now defunct as a terrorist organization, the Muslim Association of Canada, which says it's part of the Muslim Brotherhood on its website, the NCCM, who we're going to get into a bit later, and Islamic Relief Canada as front groups for the Muslim Brotherhood. The people who started Islamic Relief Canada were actually part of the Muslim Brotherhood government in Egypt, so it's a Muslim Brotherhood front group. But more than that, they do send money to Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist group and a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, so there are 3 governments that officially say that Islamic Relief is sponsoring terrorism. Bangladesh, Israel, the United Arab Emirates. UAE says they're a terrorist group. Israel says they're a terrorist group. Bangladesh is interesting, and we're going to get back into this in just a moment. Because the government of Bangladesh says they will not allow Islamic Relief to operate in their refugee huts. So if you heard about the Rohingya crisis, right, most of the Rohingya refugees are in Bangladesh. Bangladesh does not let Islamic Relief give them money to operate there because they're worried that if they let Islamic Relief into their area, they're going to turn these refugees into terrorists because they're an extremist organization. There are other things. HSBC Bank, which finances cartels, will not do business with Islamic Relief Canada. Islamic Relief. Right? They finance cartels. They've been shown to finance cartels. But they're like, cartel's fine. Islamic Relief, whoa, too much. UBS Bank. Hold up on that picture, guy. UBS Bank in Switzerland will not do business with Islamic Relief. That's a Swiss bank. A Swiss bank will not take their money. For a Swiss bank not to take your money, whoa. Okay? Now, I say this because he has given a lot of money through government funds to Islamic Relief. So we talked about how they're not allowed in Myanmar, or they're not allowed in Bangladesh to help with the refugees. The Rohingya Refugee Assistance Program, which is a Canadian government program, our government program to help with the Rohingya refugees, gave money to Islamic Relief, millions of dollars to Islamic Relief, to help with the refugees in Rohingya that they're not allowed to help because Bangladesh, a Muslim majority country, says they're terrorists. What? The funding for Motion 103, the anti-Islamophobia bill, Iqra Khalid, he's the representative for Islamabad in Canadian Parliament. She was in charge of funding. She sent the $23 million to Islamic Relief Canada. Again, Islamic Relief Canada sends money to Islamic Relief Worldwide. Islamic Relief Worldwide finances Hamas. Hamas is a registered terrorist organization. Okay, so not only do they foster extremism, many reputable governments and organizations like Canada Financial Post, Children's Charities Aid, have said they finance extremism. Not just that, other governments have said it goes directly to terrorist organizations. You are not allowed, under the Canadian law, it's called the Dawson decision, to finance terrorism in any means. You cannot send money to Al-Qaeda or Hamas to build a swing set, because they say if you give them money to build a swing set, yes, it might be go to King's Swings, but you free up funds for them to use on other terrorists like bullets, guns, explosive vests, so you cannot fund terrorism in the slightest. And millions, tens of millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars have been directed by the Liberal government through government programs to Islamic Relief Canada, which sends it to Islamic Relief Worldwide, which sends it to Hamas, which is illegal. That is criminal in Canada. You could not do that. Now, some people might say, okay, that's a lot of conjecture. Okay, a lot of conjecture down the thing. Oh, you're just a bunch of right-wing fearmongers. You're Islamophobes, blah, blah, blah. So let's bring up this story. Here's another story. So CRA suspends a major Islamic charity over criticism it provided political resource to terrorists. So here's a story in Global Mail, this is the ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. This is more of a Jamaat-e-Islami. It's also Muslim Brotherhood, more Jamaat-e-Islami, which we'll get into the difference later. By the way, Iqra Khalid, famous Iqra Khalid, announced her candidacy at the ISNA. Now the ISNA, when she announced her candidacy, had 2 terrorism funding violations. This was their 3rd. So they were suspended from the CRA. The Canadian government said the ISNA is no longer a charity because it's sending money to terrorists. This was Hizbul Mujahideen, which is like the Hamas equivalent to Jamaat. It's like Hamas equivalent of Kashmir. Like if Jamaat-e-Islami is the Southeast Asian Muslim Brotherhood, then Hizbul Mujahideen is basically the Hamas to that. It's the militant wing that tries to ethnically cleanse. Their goal is to kill all the Hindus and non-Muslims in Kashmir and turn Kashmir into a caliphate. Standard stuff. Okay? So the Canadian government says, you finance terrorism for a 3rd time, no charitable status. Guess who got over $25,000 this year from the Canada Summer Jobs Program? That's right, the ISNA. Okay? So the Canadian government says, no, you're funding terrorism, you lose charitable status. Don't do that. Also, here's some money. That was the Canadian government saying you're terrorists, then the Canadian government financing it. It's absurd. This is absurd in the extreme. And one article in the media about it. Shameful. Okay, before we move on to number 1, we're going to go over the rest of the honorable mentions. So these are the things that it's just, he should have been. Calling small business owners, doctors, and farmers tax cheats. So when he reformed the the tax code, basically he screwed over small businesses. He called them tax cheats. At the same time, him and Bill Morneau, the laws that dealt with their trust funds, untouched. So everyone else's nest egg was going to be heavily taxed and taken, except his trust fund. His trust fund stayed put. The Admiral Mark Norman story, screwing over Admiral Mark Norman. And over that, we met a Josh Boyle. The Tory Stafford murderer sent to a healing lodge. Okay, so Tory Stafford was a child who was brutally murdered. One of the convicted murderers, Terry Lynn McClintock, was going to be sent to a native healing lodge, right? And Trudeau avoided questions on this, wouldn't meet with the father for a long time. He was eventually shamed into doing the right thing after a couple months, so that's why it only makes an honorable mention. But in any other world leader, that would have been on the list for shizzle. And our final honorable mention, and this could really be number 11. This could easily make it onto the list. The whole dismissal of the Indigenous protesters, saying thanks for your support when the people who didn't have clean drinking water, which he ran his entire campaign on calling Stephen Harper racist because some people didn't have clean drinking water, basically completely dismissing them and, whenever they protested him, dismissing and shrugging them off in the thanks for your support. So that concludes our honorable mentions category. And now, our number 1 failure of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, SNCLavalin scandal. The SNCLavalin scandal is so dangerous, and it is the worst scandal in Canadian history, but it is near criminal for how poorly the media has covered it. And we could also say honorable mention to buying off the media and destroying our democracy. To recap what happened in SNCLavalin. SNCLavalin is a Quebec construction company, which means it's corrupt. It's basically the mafia. They were going to be found guilty of crimes in Muammar Gaddafi's Libya for bribery. They had bribery, extortion, lots of crimes, federal crimes in Muammar Gaddafi's Libya. If they were found guilty, they would not be able to bid on federal contracts for 10 years. They would still have private contracts, they just can't, if you're convicted of a felony, you can't get federal contracts for 10 years. So they lobbied Justin Trudeau personally, and they've given him lots of money to his personal foundation and to the Liberal Party to create a special law called the Deferred Prosecution Agreement, which would allow them to sort of plead guilty, but instead of being charged with a felony, pay a fine and then still get sweet government contracts. Remember, they tried doing this to Stephen Harper. He said no. Justin Trudeau said yes, wrote the DPA into an omnibus budget bill. But because Stephen Harper had set up an independent judiciary to catch these Liberal shenanigans, the independent prosecutor said, no, they don't qualify for this DPA. We're going to go ahead and press charges anyway. Then he put pressure on the Attorney General, who's the only one who could possibly interfere with this decision. Now, in the Constitution, because it clearly states the Prime Minister is not allowed to put any pressure on the Attorney General when it comes to judicial matters, because America has 3 branches of government. Executive, President Trump. legislature, Congress, and the judiciary, Supreme Court. Canada, our executive and legislatures combine into one, and the Senate is useless. So the Prime Minister holds tons of power, which means it is absolutely paramount that you keep him out of the justice system, or else he becomes a dictator. So dictator Trudeau wanted to put pressure on Jody Wilson-Raybould to overturn the decision. Tried to pressure Michael Warnick, Gerald Butts. She said no. Then he fired her, removed her, and put in David Lametti, his own pawn, to do his bidding. Then when this came to light, right, he denied the accusations. Oh, I didn't do that. Right? Then he kicks Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott out of Parliament for standing up to him. Right? And then, when the Ethics Commission report comes out and said he was guilty, I accept the findings, but I disagree. And the biggest thing is he lied. And he said the reason he's doing it is to protect Quebec, Canadian jobs, Quebec jobs, really. And again, that was a lie. Even SNCLavalin came out and said that no jobs are at stake because they still had $12 billion of backlog private contracts and their engineers. So if they weren't getting public contracts here, they could have got them elsewhere. Like, you could have given the contracts to other Canadian workers or their engineers, which means they would have found jobs at another company because they're highly sought after. Okay? So none of that was true. He lied about this all. And the media hasn't been covering the story because it's near criminal. And it's so easy to cover. Right? They're trying to say Canadians don't understand SNC-Lavalin. That's because you don't explain it. It's pretty easy to understand. Trudeau created a special law for a personal donor to get them off criminal charges. Then, when the Attorney General wouldn't implement that special law that they didn't qualify, he fired her to cover up for his crimes. There. 2 lines. Pretty easy to understand. That's way easier to understand than the Russia collusion nonsense we keep going on about. So there you have it. Those are top 10 failures of Justin Trudeau. Hopefully, we don't have to make another list, although we will get into my views on the election going forward. Thanks so much for watching.